There you go.
I saw. Thank you. Hello, welcome to the podcast from Duendelvin. I'm Taylor, and in this podcast, we will be exploring the world of Savarion. Here, we have Jeff and Kyle. Today we will be discussing secret societies. Mutant.
There we go. We're back.
All right, who founded the Shadows Guild?
Okay. This will be fun. So yeah, the Shadows Guild is one of our two secret societies. We only have two
Yep.
because that's more than enough. But Secret Society of the Shadows Guild was actually founded by Ayala's wife, and Ayala's our big old dirtbag. He converted to the priesthood of Vagog. He was like, you know what? These guys are whack. I'm gonna go follow this one now. And he spent a couple years trying to convert his wife. He was like, babe, no, look at her. Look, she's better, right? You like lady leadership. She's a lady leader. Let's be lady leadership friends here. And his wife was like, nah, dog, miss me with that. And then he tries again for a couple more years, and finally he's like, look, it's now or never. And she's like, all right, square up. And we're having fun with the verbiage, but effectively, yeah, she's like, yeah, no, you're not going to catch me. I'm going to fight this. And Ayala, for the first time ever, handily obliterates his wife. Like, doesn't fully destroy her, but, like, he is god juiced. He is the high priest of a god being that is like, oh, hey, bro, have some power! And he just wipes the floor with his wife, which has never happened before, especially there's some Gatu. So the Samgatu culture is highly matriarchal. So she was the better strategist, the better fighter, like generally speaking. Just he's a homemaker, she's the warrior. And so for her to just get soundly defeated like that was a huge slap in the face, literally and figuratively. And then instead of putting her down, he's like, now you can think about this. Just think about what you could have had because you're stronger than me naturally. But here I am, better than you because my God is better than yours. Neener, neener, boo boo. So that's who founded it. It was Ayala's wife, Alatea. Because after she got soundly beat down, she recognized two things. One, that you can't fight a god-juiced super dude head on. You're going to lose. And two, someone needs to be able to stop him. And so she goes away and kind of licks her wounds, literally and figuratively, and then some got to our cat people. It was a bad cat joke. Oh, we got Ludene.
Yo, hello.
But yeah, so Alatea is the creator of the Shadows Guild. Yeah.
Fun.
I don't know if it was fun for her or not. I don't. First instance of domestic abuse in all of our history.
Oh.
Needless to say, they weren't married long after that. I'm fairly certain that when he laid the smackdown on her, she was like, "All right, we out. We done with this. This marriage is over." And actually,
She should.
on a side note, it's kind of grody. The big reward for Ayala was his unholy bride. What did we talk about this? Where he was given the ability to shapeshift and then had a shapeshifting monster, and they copulated and created individuals that then went out and ruined bloodlines and created the shapeshifting skill tree.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Divorce person.
I know, right?
First one in history.
I don't know that they ever got divorced, but so the events that transpired that got them there. I mean, Kyle said that Ayala was like, "No, my God's better than yours," but the events that transpired. So, Vagog, right? And if you go back and you watch the creation series, Vagog comes about because of the imbalance in nature, right? And so when that happened, Parvulcan and Veritus Sanctus, the two gods
Creator
that are trying
gods.
to be Dissectos, right? They create these weapons to essentially kill Vagog. That was the goal of the weapons, right? And so Ayala, who at the time was the high priest of Parvulcan, goes around and finds people who are willing to sacrifice themselves. So this would be like the first time any of the races experienced death, right? So he goes out and he finds willing people, and one individual from every single race is sacrificed to create each of the 9 weapons. And then after that's happened, Parvulcan turns around and uses it on Veritas Sanctus to trap Veritas Sanctus in the underworld. That's when Ayala was like, excuse me? I did all of that stuff for you thinking you were good and I was doing something right. And that was the response to it. And so that's the moment when Ayala's like, no, this is not okay. And he converts to being the high priest of Vagog. So that's kind of the events, not kind of, that is the series of events that transpires in order to turn Ayala against Parvulcan. So,
and keeping in mind that he does come from the matriarchal type of society, so to have to, I guess we really don't talk about it. I don't think they have I don't think they're just gods, but effectively 2 male leaders. And for him, that would be kind of a thing like, oh, my creator gods are my creator gods. I'm not going to contest that, but I've been designed to follow a matriarchy, and then here comes a female god. This just feels natural.
Yeah.
So it's an extra added on because they're 2 bros. We literally call them they're brothers.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, granted as well, it was kind of like Veritas Sanctus asked for it without realizing it because he was straight up like, man, I wonder if these are actually gonna work. And Parvulcan's like, I don't know, fam. Let me check.
And they did.
Full on, God blasted his brother into prison.
Yeah.
Bro got God tasered. Stop resisting. Oh, sorry, I couldn't pass up the opportunity. I mean, I should have, but I didn't. And this is without caffeine. Maybe I need a caffeine. I should probably caffeinate.
I don't know that would help.
So yeah, no, that was a solid. I just wanted to throw that in there for obviously the taser joke. I just could not. All right. Any other questions there, Miss Tay?
All right. Well, now we know who founded the Shadow Guild. Is there any other reasons why?
Their sole purpose is to thwart Ayala. I think Alatea realized that obviously you can't fight something like this up front. And also in this point in time in the world, Ayala is actively gathering an army of people and converting them to the glories of Vagog and how much power she can bring to you and how much you can, like, how much more righteous her cause is, even though his group of followers will slowly kind of deteriorate into a bunch of raving, mad, bloodthirsty lunatics who despise their own. They eventually hate their own divine purpose and rage against it aggressively. It's kind of a her way is better. Yeah, you're right. These divine purposes suck. I'm gonna go murder instead of protect.
Yeah. Wild, but because she's some got to, she sees the bigger picture of what's happening, and like you said, knows, okay, I can't toe to toe. We have to undermine everything. And so she creates an organization that is in the shadows, calls them the Shadows Guild, and the attempt is to undermine everything that he's trying to do.
So you're saying that there's a bunch of underminers?
Underminers. But no one is under me.
Yep, nope. I'm going to try really hard not to fly Kungen today, guys, but...
Appreciate that.
Yeah. I feel like I'm also trying really hard to derail us, apparently. Apparently.
Shadows Guild.
Stay
focused.
But yeah, their sole purpose is to fight Ayala at every turn, like Jeff said, for the big picture. And I'm going to kind of throw this out there. There's not really a need to fight from the shadows right now, because the threat is pretty evident. People are flocking, and this is young time frame. The world is roughly 150 years old at this point.
So it's 200 and some odd.
232. Oh, you're right. So my bad. It's 232 years when the Second Age starts.
Yes,
that's
when
right.
The Second Age starts, and all of the Shadows Guild events happen in the Second Age. So the weapons are built in 12.
A2.
We're calling it A2. The second the age 2,
Yep.
second age. It's technically the age of destruction is what we're calling it. So we have the age of creation, then the age of destruction. But we're just A2, A3, A4. That's how we're going to do the ages because it's just easier that way. But yeah, in 12A2, the god weapons are finished in order to, fight against Ayala.
And his armies, yep.
And, well, Vagog.
Vagog and her armies, technically.
And her armies, yeah.
So like there really isn't a need for the Shadows Guild to work in secret other than continuing to be like, no, we need to keep aggressively. We can't let this take hold. So the Shadows Guild were heavily influential individuals within military complex that recognized the threat of this, that were being spurred on by somebody who was also a member of the Shadows Guild that was in their trusted council. The Shadows Guild recognized that they couldn't be the top dogs because that puts them in a position of visual awareness isn't the right word, but they're no longer being able to obfuscate their presence, so they're in the open. They can't operate in a position of power because it's too noticeable. It's too
right.
Yeah. There's another way to say that. I still can't find the word. That's okay. I can let this go. I will let this go.
We all understand.
So they had to. The Shadows Guild was mostly just be spurring on the war effort to make sure they didn't just let this fly. Like, we beat them, they're running, and it's like, well, don't let them run away. Go kill them all. Yep. I mean, fun fact about history, that's kind of how the Civil War happened. The Confederacy was actually defeated very early on. And then the general at the time let them run away because of a sneaky move that was done by General Robert E. Lee, who engaged in a parlay to cover the retreat of his entire army back into the South and split them up because they were just awful. And it's really fun too in that regard. Lincoln wrote a very nasty letter that he never sent to his general because he knew, but he needed to get it out anyways. No, this is important. It's not Flying Kungan, I promise.
I mean, we're talking about the Civil War now.
Because this is a civil war. And so anytime, like, it would have been different, because any time that they would try and back off and let the armies retreat out of love of their brother, they'd have to be reminded that these people were no longer their brethren, that they had converted to an evil god and had to be stomped out of existence. So the parallel comes in. Because had we engaged as aggressively as our world was, then there would not have been a continuation of the Civil War for years and years and years and years, but also there's a necessary function for the Civil War. We can go into that another time. Whole different podcast. We'll talk about history shenanigans. Just kidding. Don't have any desire for that. There's so many of those out there.
Back to the Shadows Guild.
So the Shadows Guild made sure they were the hand that Lincoln wished he had, is what I was getting at.
Oh, okay.
To encourage the generals and their armies to pursue the rebels, the cultists was more accurate, into just non-existence. And that was also so that they could keep the armies occupied and the 9 heroes could go and put Vagog in prison. So Vagog got tased. Stop resisting!
Right. So, yeah. So Vagog gets tased. And so she gets trapped in the underworld. That's when Parbukan basically bounces, because he's like, okay, so I can't kill Vagog, and all of this sucks. I'm out. So he bounces.
Right. There's a little bit of embarrassment there too,
And
because he got called out by his brother ahead of time in front of everybody, being like, "Oh gosh, what'd we do?" And then his high priest, not him and his brothers, his personal high priest was like, "Bro, you're a dirtbag. I'm out." Talk about ego check.
Yeah.
And this is a god level ego check that just got slapped by a little cat man. So definitely, he was like, I ain't gonna suffer this humiliation and this indecency.
Right.
You couldn't even do what I asked you to do and kill this thing. I'm out.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. So in 15A2, they hide the weapons. Ayala has a fight with his wife, and all that happens. And then Ayala sees what's going on with the Shadows Guild, right? So 18A2, Alatea creates the Shadows Guild, and then the Shadows Guild starts putting down
all his rebellions,
all
his
the
cults.
rebellion and everything. And then it was 253
I think so.
was when Vagog was finally actually trapped, right? And then the weapons are hidden. And then Ayala, knowing that he can't win this war because there's not enough people fighting for Vagog to actually fight this fight, he decides to go tell all of the 9 races that the other races are searching again for the god weapons so that they can use them independently, and he's the one that kicks off the 1,000-year war, telling all the races that the other races are looking for the god weapons to be like the master race, the Nazis. So Ayala tells everybody that the other races are trying to be Nazis, and so they all freak out, and that causes the 1,000-year war.
Yep.
Which then requires, so the Shadows Guild now has been in existence for 200 years, 220, 230, something like that.
Yeah, because
years.
Vagog, you said 233A2 is when Vagog gets
233.
and then 253 is when Ayala instigates the 1,000-year war.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a 20-year gap between Vagog getting trapped and then the Shadows Guild like basically inciting the fight against.
Yeah.
So the Shadows Guild never actually is the one that does. I mean, they participate, but they're do it in a way that like as part of a group, and they influence the situation, right?
Yes, Lou, this is all fantasy.
Well, the Civil War part isn't.
That's fair.
The rest of it
That's and I mean, Nazis existed as well. That's also not fantasy.
That's true. So so then where was I? Flying Kungen. Where was I? So 20 years. So then because the Shadows Guild has existed for 200-ish years,
Yeah.
right? And they're infiltrating everybody. So they have people in every organization, right? And they've decided that they're going to be strategic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to have a cell, a group. So it's a 5 individual team, four
Yeah.
4-person group. It's a 4-man group. And so you have your person who's like your speaker. So for the
operatives.
sake of understanding, like when the human group, that cell, the number 2 seat house that
House of
never
Whispers.
loses its position, it's just the speaker. There was a Shadows Guild member in the second seat house as like a party member. And then you have your operative who's like going around and spreading propaganda and stuff like that. And then you have your
Logistics officer.
and then you
your
have your
information
like
scout.
do what?
He's your scout and information.
Yeah, your scout, your information guy. So that's how they would operate in teams. So they'd have a team in the humans, the team with the Samgatu, a team with. So that's how they do that. It was a very strategic. We're going to control major points,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have their home, which is in Nizek, and it's in the mountains. In the like, if you're looking at the map. I'm looking at the map, so it's here. So if you're looking at the map, it's here on the map. On the northeast side of the in the inside of the mountains.
Yep, not like a cave. There is no natural access to Nizek. You have
There would have been originally.
But then we have a bunch of creatures.
There has to have originally been.
There was originally, and then we have a bunch of creatures who were like effectively like earth moles.
Well, and your earth mages.
Yeah, the earth mages, and they effectively seal off the entrance and
Right.
make it look like it never existed through
Yeah.
natural means. And then they zip zap themselves in,
Right.
which is really cool.
And then the 1,000-year war kicks off.
Sorry, yeah.
And Veritus Sanctus, right? So Veritus Sanctus actually from the underworld starts influencing people to start the keepers of the peace and chooses Kenji, who at the time was the leader of the Shadows Guild, as a member to go be part of the Keepers of the Peace.
Kenji's
because
dwarf.
Veritus Sanctus thought it would be wise to have somebody in there. And that's when Ayala kills the one that was chosen, the Samgatu that was chosen, and takes his place as a keeper. And so that's how you get both Ayala and the Shadows Guild into the Keepers Guild during the 1,000-year war.
It was also a really cool time for the Shadows Guild, because until then they had been operating with no god patron technically, and they still don't have one, but to receive the approval of one of the OG gods, because obviously Parbal Khan is gone, he actually like decided to go take a vacation at the bottom of the ocean and make his own family. Like he went and started his own family elsewhere. Like, it's really kind of awful. He's a dirtbag as well. I mean, dirtbag begets dirtbag. It fits. So to have the Shadows Guild get that knowledge that, hey, there's our OG god who is still in prison that we don't know where, don't know how to get him out, has picked one of us and knows what we are, because I can't hide that from him. Validated them aggressively, and they felt like they were doing the right thing.
I'm still here. I'm just doing something real quick.
Which was absolutely awesome. We had one of the cameras isn't working. It's the one that points specifically at me and Taylor. Taylor's always in camera. You'd have a lot of fun with that. But yeah. So, with that validation, it kind of bolsters their belief of we are doing the right thing, and it actually kind of it helps their recruitment in the long run, which is super dope. But we have a lot of fun with this one because you have Kenji, who is aware of Ayala as Ayala. Ayala has god magic power. Vagog was like, yo, the godling down here is up to something. I need you to be a part of it. And she like kicks him forward. And so he goes and, like Jeff said, popped the other Samgatu that was supposed to be there and took that Samgatu's place. And he's like, here I am. And he didn't even hide his name. Like, let's talk about how blatantly brazen this homie is. We got some blob here.
Oh my gosh, hey!
The hat! Taylor's hat is great. Absolutely phenomenal. Show him the front. Show him the front. Yeah! It's a beautiful hat. So, I went to space again. Apologize.
Yes, you did.
We were talking about how Ayala was so blatant about it. He didn't even change his name. He rolled up in there as Ayala, but not as just kept the same name. And it was pretty entertaining. Kenji recognized him for what he was right out the box. And when we talk about our namesake in the podcast, Duendelvin, was one of Ayala's greatest opponents in the Keepers. And we want to talk this as well. Halflings are our martial monsters, right? So even with a little bit of god juice, Ayala knew that without like direct Vagog intervention, he was not going to be able to take on a Duendelvin one-on-one. So he needed a way to get Duendelvin knocked out of the race. But Kenji needed Duendelvin as an ally and then created an idea to give our halfling Duendelvin more authority and have better insight to be a better ally. So he proposed, at this point, I'm going to kind of have to backtrack a little bit. The Shadows Guild had and still does have a book style similar to what the Samgatu were given by the gods. Alatea utilized that magic to allow the leaders to be able to gain better insight as what their previous leader was, so their mission never gets lost. They're always keeping track of what was happening. When you have a lot of shadow organizations going on, a lot of different hands moving all at once, you need to be able to access the direct memories and knowledge of the person that was putting them in play, which was the books that they have. So you put on the ring, you read the journal, and bam, you are in their mind. So that magic existed. It was given to the Samgatu. It was then transferred as a tool for the Shadows Guild. And then Kenji was like, I can make you a better halfling. Let me give you better insight. And they perform this ritual. During this ritual, Ayala takes his opportunity. He's like, I got this. And the control aspect of her ability to maintain full control over her new power, he pulls that out during he sabotages the ritual. Totally knocks her out, makes her kind of worthless for a long time. She's no longer within the council able to hold that because these... Dang it, I can only see something about insight checks.
These insight checks are insane.
Fair. Good call.
Nat 20 every time.
So then Duendelvin is just incapacitated. Kenji does not want to lose his greatest ally within without her realizing that, like, how about this? She doesn't know that Kenji's a Shadows Guild member, but she doesn't know who Ayala is by nature, but she just naturally opposes him because his viewpoints are literally bad.
Right.
And so that opposition was taken out by this ritual, but Kenji's like, I can't leave you undefended. So he goes and does his dwarven shenanigans, and he creates the first Shimbare. He puts forth the blueprints for it and says, hey, we have the god weapons. She needs a protector because she can't protect herself anymore. Don't want to leave her vulnerable. I propose this thing. And everyone else in the party was like, ooh, I like it. And our super Shimbare was enacted.
Stamp of approval.
Yep. And Ayala couldn't say nothing about it.
Right.
So he removed her mentally, but then couldn't remove her physically because Kenji was quick on the uptake. Go Shadows Guild.
Go Shadows Guild.
And she gets her super Shimbare protector, who there's no way that Ayala can overcome, again, without direct Vagog influence. And Vagog is in prison, so he doesn't have the same god juice that he did when he fought his wife.
Well, even so,
Yeah.
the Shimbare were developed after that as the protectors of the...
Gosh dang it, Ludo.
They were created as, like, the first trial
Love
to put peace back in the world, right? The guardians of the world to maintain peace. That's what the Shimbare were. And the first one was specifically created to be an unstoppable force to protect Duendelvin using Parvulkan's weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And so even with Vagog's power, Ayala couldn't go toe-to-toe with that Shimbare because that Shimbare would soak that power from Ayala and use it against him.
It's like, you got god juice, so do I.
So do I.
And I couldn't see what Sarah popped up there because the whiteboard's
She
a little in the way.
said, that sounds like a scary time being in somebody's head. So it wouldn't be like what you think of like Professor X when he's like in someone's head, right? So think about it like this.
Oh, thank you, Ian.
Oh,
Careful. There you go.
Okay. All right. So imagine it more
Nicely
like
done.
this, okay? I'm going to write a book based on my experience, okay? And so I'm writing down my experiences as, as I do, right? And I'm wearing this ring and writing it down. When you go to read that book, right, you can put the ring on and read the book, okay? And what happens is you see what I was writing from my perspective.
Including the memories that get popped in.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so what ends up happening is Duendelvin basically gets this ability on a massive scale to be able to tap into. So it's not the same as being in somebody's head. It's more like being able to see events from their perspective would be a better way to say it. Still, yes, I agree.
Absolutely terrifying.
Terrifying thing that you have to go through. And it takes Duendelvin a long time to figure out how to properly control it.
Well, especially, because the control was initially taken, so she gets locked into these fits of vision, effectively, where she is forced to relive historical moments from like key historical moments, as long as this person still has essence.
Right.
Which something we talked. If an essence wraith kills you, you cannot be viewed by Duendelvin because they suck out your essence.
They suck out your essence.
It's not the same as when the goblins make coinage, because your essence is still there when you die. They just harvest it after you're dead.
Right. So, but it would be, it wouldn't be the same as like being in somebody's head. But
it's like because you're like in their body, you're experiencing them as them. Be kind of a creepy, awesome way to experience different events. Also, that Duendelvin have a better perspective and be able to, hopefully, Kenji could give her insight without indoctrinating her into the Shadows Guild, because that was not an option.
Right. But because he knew of how the magic worked, he knew how to protect himself from certain viewings.
And so he could protect part of his memories.
Yeah.
And Ayala has god magic that protects his mind so that you can't piggyback off Ayala's brain. Yeah.
Of course not.
No, I mean, yeah.
Of course not.
He's our dirtbag boogeyman.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot.
So it's interesting.
There's a lot. Like, I feel like we missed something. No, I think we've kept in line with
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So we hit. I mean, even though I took us on a Kungan trip, we definitely covered everything that happened up to, and then the keepers. And the keepers are when things really get wild because there's small events that happen. And this is kind of fun because Ayala is recognizing that there is an organization because he wouldn't know the Shadows Guild, not openly. Obviously, they keep it very quiet. He would be a member of the Keepers, kibutzing there, trying to convert as many people as he could to the glory of Vagog. Because if he can convert the Keepers to Vagog, he converts the world to Vagog. Because then he has a force of immeasurable power. He sees the Shambare, and he's like, "Huh. This would give me more time, so we're not the ones." And he proposed it this way to the group, to the Keepers. He's like, "We can put a lesser format of these Shambare in action, and then we're not the ones having to go and put out fires all the time. It gives us more time to find alternate solutions." So he didn't speak a single lie in that entire interaction because absolutely everything he said was truth, to mostly truth. Yeah, his intent was very different because if they had the Shambara and they were putting out fires, he was able to go and be more active because somehow all of the plans that he put into place in these different nations that he would go to and help were being undone. And he's like, "This is unusual. If I'm not actively in a spot, the process fails.
Right.
None of my schemes are coming to fruition."
And the advantage that the Shadows Guild has at this time is, one, Kenji's there, but the Shadows Guild was specifically designed to thwart Ayala. So Kenji knows what Ayala's about.
And where he's going to be.
And where he's going to be and all that kind of stuff. But Ayala doesn't know Kenji's a member of the Shadows Guild. And so they do, in this period of time, have an upper hand.
Yep.
Just because of their resources and what they're trying to do and how they hide themselves. So yeah, Ayala's like frustrated all the time, and then he puts the Shambare in play so we can pursue a different thing. And Kenji, knowing what Ayala is up to, is like, "Well, we can't have this.
We need the Shambare to not be a thing."
Yeah, so he leaks how to destroy the Shambare to the Shadows Guild, who then disperse it to all the 9 races, and now the Shambare are not useful.
They had a great period of time where they were terrifying. And it's true, what would happen is, like you talked about, Kenji's people, the Shadows Guild, wouldn't be able to thwart Ayala wherever he was. Also, Kenji was starting to get paranoid. He's like, "I made this thing," and then Ayala took an interest in it. I didn't think about that. And so there's this little bit of an inferiority function because Ayala's an OG. 2, he's a Samgatu, and he has God juice. So he's like, Kenji is playing himself effectively and trying to play 3D chess with Ayala, who is a robot. Like, he's not literally, but like the idea is like, I'm trying to fight an artificial intelligence. So he feels like, even though he is a very great inventor, he is outside of his league whenever he goes toe to toe with Ayala. So anything Ayala takes an interest in something, he can't quite see the big picture, but knows it's not a good idea. So that's also part of why he was like, the Shambare got to go. I don't know what his plan for this is, but like, I don't like it.
So then the 9 races know how to defeat it. And then Kenji's like, "You know what? We need something." But I said that already.
I missed it. I'm so sorry.
So he's like, "You know what? Let's just banish him to the underworld and start over." Right? Kenji's like, "Let's just start over." And so with the Horakai, Kenji actually succeeds with the Horakai, with their purpose, with what they want them to do, their power set, and like their drive.
Yep.
Their ability to detach from
first time travel.
Yeah, that's Ayala. It's playing that game, and Kenji's like, checkers. But Kenji is a master inventor.
Yes.
Right, and so he does, with the weapons of Parblukan, he does create the Horakai, which until later events we'll talk about in a little bit. I don't know if we'll even get to it today, but at some point he undoes himself.
Yep, he beats himself.
Is the flaw, because they create Nargoth and then Keteline, Theranik, Elios, and Zayak, right?
Gosh dang it, Ludo. I've already killed you.
Ludonet, do you want to come like sit in the podcast with us? You are officially invited.
We'll have you and Davey. It'll be a great time.
I know, right? That'll be good. So, speaking of Davey, where's Davey?
He might be work shenanigans.
okay.
I'll have to figure it out.
I'm just gonna throw this out there in case he is listening. He won the hoodie
Yeah, he did.
in the raffle, so I need his size so that he can. So
or
I can
whoever he
send it
chooses
him.
to give it to, because he
So-
could give it to his wife.
That's true. I just need the size.
Yep.
At any rate. so Kenji successfully creates the Horkai, right? He creates Nargoth, gives Nargoth the ability to create new Horkai, right? And so Nargoth creates Theranik, Catiline, Elios, and Zayak. And then creates as like a replication of himself, but a different purpose.
Yep.
And then creates like
Foot soldiers of
the
Horkai.
legion
Yeah.
of elementalists, the legion of martialists, and all that kind of stuff, so that they can create peace. It only takes of the 1,000-year war. It only takes the Horkai 200 years to establish peace, right? And so that was a huge success.
Absolutely.
And so this is okay. So back to the purpose of the Shadows Guild, what's going on, all that kind of stuff. Because Ayala is like, and bear with me, because Kyle and I talked about this extensively, and I was like, go back to the Shadows Guild, and he's like, no, this is really important. So Ayala, there's a skirmish that happens in between the creation of the Shimbare and the creation of the Horkai. At some point in between there's a skirmish that happens that leaves the well diggers, the Arcanists,
Yep.
dead, except for one who's like clinging to life. So Ayala goes to that place, finds that one survivor who's clinging to life, takes him to the underworld, and introduces him to Vagog directly. And Vagog goes, I got something for this. I need you, Ayala, to go back to the Keepers and just maintain the status quo. Just until I release him back into the world, I just need you to be like status quo. Don't do anything else. I have an idea, right? And so Ayala goes up, and because of all of this, it kind of becomes like the events just play out, right? With very little influence from Ayala or the Shadows Guild after the Horkai are made. There's not as much. It's like it just...
This period of quiet is driving Kenji insane, let's be fair.
Well, yeah.
Because
well,
he's now worried that he can't see what Ayala is actually doing.
But Ayala's not really
he's
doing
not
anything.
doing anything. So, with a little bit of Vagog support, Ayala is getting Kenji to play himself.
Right. So
Yeah.
So the peace happens. They develop the scrolls of power that grant each race something unique to them.
Which is when our Minotaur get the ability to not kill themselves as aggressively.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was the most recent episode we did before this one, and there's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Minotaur,
But they directly
yeah.
translate to the racial bonuses in the board game.
Yes.
So your elf +2 movement, your Minotaur plus 20 health, your Samgatsu +1 roll, all of that is like, so this is the moment at the end of the 1,000-year war where all the races are given the scrolls, that they're given that racial power for the board game. And that's how that plays out. So, Taylor, did we miss anything? Because we have a lot that happens now, but I want to make sure
Do we need to go back over
we
anything?
covered everything properly. Or anybody else, if you have any questions.
Because I know you mentioned how they operate, but I don't think you actually got into that as you went right into the Keepers.
My bad. Okay. So like Jeff was talking about, they operate in the 4-man teams. You have your 2 operators, your logistics individual, and then your scout/information gatherer, right? Logistics just make sure you have whatever you need for the team and is in charge of also communications, logistics and communications. There you go between. So the operation would always depend on what was necessary and what was needed. That's why you have 2 operatives with 2 separate skill sets. You need sabotage, you go to your sabo guy. You need that political maneuvering, you need some clever double talk, you need something like that. You got to go to your guy number 1, who's your courtier, who's your we need to get this guy on board. You got to go woo this individual. You got to go use your charms and your wiles. And so you have 2 types of operators that fit whatever bill is necessary.
So the charismatic one and the rogue?
Effectively. Well, the rogue can also be charismatic. So you have,
Right.
They're both rogues technically. Well, but one is like rogue who cross-classed into bard, and one is rogue who cross-classed into wizard. So them D&D references, solid.
So the communication would be complicated, but the dwarves actually solved this a while ago. So the dwarves, so going back to the Minotaur last episode, we talked about how the Minotaurs shadow walk to have communication with each other,
because
right?
Scattered peoples.
Exactly. And so the dwarves are like, how are they pulling this off? We have to figure this out. And they sort of solved it with basically these
text
messaging things, right? And so basically what it is like you can link it up to another one, and then you can write in it in this sand like an etch-a-sketch with a pen, right? And the other person can see what you're writing.
As long as they don't shake it.
And so that's how, as long as they don't shake it. So that's how the dwarves kind of developed their own version of communication across lands. Now, because the Shadows Guild has access to everyone and all of their technologies, because they have people in every group, the Shadows Guild used that and adapted it to a more covert, refined thing. And so it became like a more like a pocket watch, right? And so you could write in it, and they had operatives that would be in Nizek who, if
switchboard operators, effectively.
So my 4-man team, right, and I have communication, so one of us has the little medallion, and then there's somebody sitting 25 hours a day. Yes, our days in Savarion are 25 hours long. So we have somebody sitting 25 hours a day waiting for somebody to communicate so that they can. And obviously it would be a rotation of ships, but you would have an operator per cell who would sit on the other end and communicate with them. So that's how they did mass communication, and they were able to keep connection with people who were, thousands of Han away.
And there's no shortage of individuals, because if you got burned as an operative, you had nowhere else to go. You couldn't go and intermingle, and you couldn't go and leave and go to another city, because it doesn't work that way.
Right.
So you only had one place to go. So Nizek was also a place for retirees. So there was no shortage of individuals who still wanted to support and do something, but had nothing to do. So once the switchboard operation was capable, then all of a sudden they had purpose again, and they weren't just, I'm cleaning up Nizek again. Let me just do some dusting and some sweeping, and I'm gonna carve out them here rocks and make a nice little rock bed. Zen garden.
Zen garden.
Well, yeah, they would have also had access to the mushrooms, so they would never have to leave for food or worry about provisions.
They obviously could.
Yeah, they don't have to. The whole point is that was there because once you got found out as a goofy goober and you were blackballed, blacklisted, you couldn't go back to your community. It just wasn't possible.
Right.
With all the segregation. We got a question from the man in the chair.
How did they leave if they?
Oh, okay. We're all silently watching as he's typing. I apologize. So we're not just. It didn't freeze. We're like,
Check, 1, 2.
We're
Ian
still
is
here.
typing a question. So, how did they leave if they teleported in? I thought the teleportation was one way. No, it would be the spot where you teleported in would be the same place that would be. It would work the same way, but it would drop you out at a different place.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was when they figured out the teleportation, so when it started becoming a big deal and more races were traveling more and there was more people and all that kind of stuff, they needed to hide it. And so they went underground with the, underground rock dudes. I don't remember what we called them, but
they had a name. We'll have to look it up. We have it written down somewhere, but they were effectively earth golems that were...
Yeah, earth golem kind of thing. And then the earth mages, and so they...
It's not that critical. It's okay.
Don't worry about it, Ian. They bury themselves. And so what they did was they created these teleportation stones. And so as a Shadows Guild member, you got a ring.
A different kind of ring.
But it was attached to your rib.
Yep.
So it couldn't be, but the connection point was your hand, and you could drag your hand across the wall,
and then
and it would teleport you. And it was like an area in a wall that was like a cliff wall that would teleport you in. The teleport out would have a couple of different locations, and you could just touch that, and it would teleport you out.
The way our teleportation magic works is you have a keystone, and then the ring was effectively your lock to unlock that point. But that keystone is bound to a certain location only. Right. One location per keystone. You also have cities where there's a keystone that was orchestrated and set apart that's also part of the foundation of some of these cities, and so you can go into a building and just dip out.
Right.
Like,
So your operatives would be able to go to and from Nezek,
yes,
if they needed to,
but
but
made catching them a lot less effect. Like, as long as you,
it'd be
yeah, it was harder to catch them.
almost impossible.
Yep.
So
And then there's no way unless you, because like teleportation magic was a very well kept secret. It was hidden
Ian,
from the
don't
world
worry about it.
by the Shadows Guild for their success. No, that's not them.
Nope.
It's not the Holocrus.
We can talk about it. We'll find it.
We have it
because
written
we're
down
going to talk about the Shadows Guild
a lot
on Thursday as well.
Yeah.
Maybe even next Tuesday.
But
who
they
knows?
do eventually get opposition. Our second organization. We can talk about that kind of as well. We went into space about how they operate.
I think we
which
wait.
is a good question.
I think we wait till Thursday to bring
You
that
want
up.
to bring it up Thursday?
Yeah,
Okay.
because
we'll
we
discuss it on
have a
Thursday.
lot of information between now and even their invention.
That's fair.
Before we
But-
before we get there, because we're running on 15 minutes
Holy crap.
before we're done, and yeah, we have 1500 years before Nargoth even dies at this point in our timeline. So
That's fair. We can kind of talk about. So we have that whole period of existence where Kenji is panicking because he
Right.
can't see Ayala's plan. He's like, "What is happening?" And then, I guess we have to wait. Yeah, we have to actually. I can't really talk about this yet because we're launching into that tomorrow about
Thursday.
Yeah, not tomorrow.
Well,
sorry, Thursday.
no, the death of Nargoth.
The death of Nargoth
We can talk about that.
is kind of fueled because of the opposition that is created. I guess we can. So eventually, the individual that was released
Well,
from
that's
Vagog,
that's not particularly relevant.
It is because that's where Kenji thought that the Horakai had been subverted.
That's
It
right.
is necessary.
Okay, yeah.
So
Well, let's talk about them like they're a secret organization and not actually reveal who they are yet.
exactly. So there's a group that is linked to the first one, which is the individual that Ayala rescued.
Right.
Who orchestrated his entire people's demise. And then say, I saved you.
I saved
All the air quotes. And this individual is a very hungry boy and is very powerful.
Very powerful.
Very powerful, very hungry boy. And so all of a sudden, the keepers were finding entire villages just gone, wiped out. No trace of anything. The only beings that they are aware of that can do something like that are the Horakai.
Right.
Nobody else has that capability. So Kenji begins to panic.
Right.
Full panic mode. He thought that Ayala had somehow taken his perfect creations,
creation.
the ones that he could not subvert because he made sure to give them an intense will. And that was the whole point of it. They needed a will
They
and a
were
purpose.
unsubvertible.
Yep. And they really were.
They were.
But this hungry boy was just wiping out entire cities, like small villages.
So that doesn't actually start
Not for a while.
the other faction.
No, but that's what starts the downfall of the Horakai.
Right.
Because Kenji is playing himself because
Yeah.
Ayala's being quiet. Begins the creation of a device to kill Horakai.
Right.
Yep.
And so he uses master dwarves and master goblins to create a dagger that's capable of destroying the Horakai. Now the Horakai, the critical thing that basically made the Horakai as powerful as they are was this core, right? And so the core generated power, created its own will, and was like you could not subvert this power core, right? And Kenji was like, okay, so we have to destroy it.
The core has to go.
It has to go. So he creates this dagger, years and years and years of research and technological advance and all of that with other master dwarves. Because Kenji's a member
Member of the Shadows Guild.
member of the Shadows Guild, but he's also a key player in the Keepers of the Peace. And the Keepers were well known throughout the whole world as the good guys, right? So Kenji could openly go to the Master Dwarves and be like, I need help with something, and go to the Master Goblins and say, I need something. And he combined that power to create this dagger. He gives it to a Shadows Guild operative to see if it works. Right, to test it out in one of these little skirmish events.
There's an oops in this
The core
skirmish
is indestructible, so they destroyed the only other. It's not actually indestructible.
Nope.
And the core is not indestructible. The core is practically indestructible, which is why Kenji had to go to those lengths to destroy it.
They had to be able to drain the power out of the core. Yep.
So he gives this dagger to one of the operatives. There's a skirmish that happens. The operative shows up to kill one of the Horakai to see if it works.
Supposed to be one of the legions.
Supposed to be
one of the legions.
Right? Nargoth shows up. Gets offed in this with the dagger. The operative dies too. Nargoth dies. Right? Which spurs Theranik to go, hey, now that Nargoth is dead, like he goes to the Keepers and he says, I need Nargoth's power so that I can maintain our forces. And Kenji goes, nope. Because he thinks you guys have been subverted. So he's all, no, we're not going to do that. It doesn't make sense.
You guys are a failed product. Obviously, somebody was able to kill the greatest of you.
Right, which they weren't at that point.
So it's time that we just let you guys phase out naturally. He was like, you keep doing your job. We'll find you a home in the meantime. We'll put you someplace nice in the overworld. You guys can live out your existence elsewhere.
Right. Because, the Horakai could die. It's the power cores that were so hard to destroy. But the Horakai themselves could be killed.
They're effectively like a body with a core in it, so like little puppets that they then use elemental power to create their bodies. And
Nargoth could create new ones and reinvigorate them so he could maintain. So when that power went away, like, now they could actually just be destroyed, and then they're cores just laying around. Which, in the role-playing game, you can use the cores.
Yep, you can find them as pieces of history. Like
pieces
lost
of history
technology
and use them
that
as
infuse superpowers. Well, not superpowers, but they make you feel real strong.
Yeah. So Nargoth dies, Theranik is. And so because...
Oh, no. Why'd the message get retracted, Ludo?
Did it? Huh. So, because Kenji thought they had been subverted, accidentally kills Nargoth, and then tells Theranik no because they were subverted, Theranik gets mad and says, well, fine, we're going to do our own thing. And that's what spurs Theranik into orchestrating the fall. Is because Kenji assumed something that wasn't true, orchestrated Nargoth's death accidentally. And then Theranik's like, fine, I'm going to do my own thing. So it's actually Kenji's fault that the Horakai turn away from their original design. So it is the designer's fault that they turn away from their design. And Ayala's like, all right, maybe I'll just wait.
He's like, he's just sitting there like, my God is good.
Got it.
I have to do nothing. He just watches Kenji play himself in chess.
Right.
Ayala has since retired and taken a nap and like had a meal and he comes back and Kenji's like, oh, what are you doing?
Right. I was like, hey. So, all right. So we only have 5 minutes left. I don't think we need to jump into the next phase of what happens with the Shadows Guild. We might have. Like on Thursday, we're going to have overlap with the other shadow organization, and then we might even have to go into next Tuesday
before we actually touch the whole new organization.
Before we get into,
because we will probably cover from the existence of all the way to their dismantling.
Yeah, with both of them. So, well, maybe what we should do, and I think. This is what I'm going to propose if anybody wants to do something differently. Yes, they are
very shadowy individuals. Thank you, Ian.
Let me know in the comment section. But I think what we should do is we'll introduce the other organization as they happen, and we'll run them both. And we'll just talk about both of them until they're both gone. And we'll intermix and intermingle because they exist together a lot. And so we won't just... So starting Thursday, we won't just talk about the Shadows Guild. We'll talk about both of them and how they pair up and side by side and coordinate each other.
Because their existence is going to start coming to light. And it's again
to talk about the rest of the Shadows Guild history without bringing them up.
Who aren't enemies?
Yeah, they're enemies.
Yeah, both these organizations oppose each other aggressively.
I misspoke with the word coordinate.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So
they are they're constantly opposing each other, and they happen to be operating in the same positions because that's what happens when you have to oppose your opponent. You have to be where they are.
Right.
Yeah.
So
The age of technology has changed things a little bit. You can attack a country without actually stepping foot in a country in this day and age.
right, but that's
doesn't
not
work
how it
in
works
there.
in Savarion.
Nope, Savarion has.
So yeah, we'll bring up.
I mean, Savarion barely has text messaging, and it's
Etch a sketching. It's etch a sketch messaging. So all right, so we'll get deeper into the Shadows Guild, and we will introduce the other organization.
We're not talking. Yep, you don't get to get their name yet.
You have to come back on Thursday
Yep,
at
you got
1
it.
o'clock to listen again, Mountain Standard Time, to hear what they're called.
And don't keep an eye out for your Dakota rings. Just kidding, we don't have those.
Dakota Ring? That would be fun. So,
all right, you guys. Thanks for popping in. All thanks for the comments. Absolutely. And Taylor, thanks for hosting.
Ian, did you
today.
have something? Okay. He's just also saying bye. He wants to say bye.
Ian says bye as well. So just to make sure we appreciate the comments here. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel and
Share.
and definitely share it with your friends. It's much appreciated. And then we have the Kickstarter campaign. It's going to be the countdowns
4th.
on the website. So
Yep.
March 4th.
So-
We'll do a big episode announcement for that as well. But I also want to keep bringing your attention to it. It's there. It's coming. You can play the board game, the fall, which we've kind of hinted at as far as what's going down.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.